Welcome to the Extra Pass podcast presented by Melbourne United. I'm your host, Ben Hopkins, joined as always by my co-host, Adam Ballinger. Balls, how are you?
I'm doing great. Off 2 wins. It's exciting to come in here with such a good team and talk about them.
Yeah, and coming off, obviously, the multicultural game, it's so exciting. It's an exciting episode for us as well, where we'll break down round 4, and then we're going to have Melbourne Tigers legend and championship-winning assistant coach Al Westover join us in the back half of the episode. But we will start with the multicultural game. Obviously, we've just come off it, dampened a little bit by the weather, but still so many people there, so many people getting involved. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was cool. My job was a little easier because of the weather. All the setup outside was
that's all that matters then.
Yeah, kind of taken away from us, which is a bit disappointing, honestly. It's such a big thing, and it is really cool to see everything set up and the different activations that are going on and all the music and everything. But, other than the fact that we had to move it inside, it was a hit, man. It looked like a sellout again. I don't know the official numbers, but people are packed in there having fun. The vibe is really good, and then the product on the court couldn't be much better.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously something we touched on with Reece last week, but something really important to the club and to the city to have so many people from so many diverse cultures come in and just enjoy basketball, because that's something that Joe spoke about a lot last week, saying that it doesn't matter where you're from, who you like, how tall you are, blah, blah, blah. If you like basketball, you're always welcome at a Melbourne United game. Yeah,
absolutely. Plenty of different, all types of people walking around at United games, and all are welcome. That's every game, though, too, but it's definitely highlighted, I'd say, at the multicultural game.
And all were welcome to see United pick up a big win against the New Zealand Breakers in the multicultural game. We'll start there, and then we'll circle back to Illawarra, but just an awesome game. Competitive, hard fought, 2 quality teams out there.
Yeah, New Zealand definitely wasn't scared coming in or anything like that. They wouldn't go away. I'm anxious to hear your analysis of the game. But if we skip all the way to the end, but in the fourth quarter, it just felt like there were some threes that if you're New Zealand, you just throw your hands up and like, well, what else are we going to do? We're cutting off all these lanes, and there's just every pass is another weapon for him, another weapon the ball goes to. And Chris does what he does best, is hit a couple really back-breaking threes that were not good shots. I mean, he had to shoot them because it ended the shot clock, but most people aren't going to make those, and those kind of count for double sometimes.
Yeah, you talk about Chris, and you can lump Ian into that as well. Just 8 for 10 on their threes on the night. What's it like to have those sort of shooters as your teammates that I can just find them and they can create, or they can make big shots when needed? Or what's it like being on the other side, just as you said, just having 23 seconds of good defense and then someone just puts up a 3 and cashes it?
Yeah, it's a bit demoralizing to be the defense, and They like I said, defensively they were really good on a couple of those plays, and it's like we can't do much more than that. Even the coach, I mean, if you're watching film or you're watching the game as a coach, there's no one to yell out after he makes those shots. It's like your guess is as good as mine. But if you got those guys on your team, and you have a team like Melbourne United is right now, it's such a good. It's just a great bailout. It's like you can take chances. I can drive on this guy, or I can take a couple extra dribbles, or try and make this pass. And if it doesn't work, we've got so many, we kick it back out, or we try to get the offensive rebound and kick it back out. It's just kind of, there's always a cushion kind of 2 guys that are standing around the perimeter that can always just catch and shoot.
Yeah. How's that got to feel for Chris? He's someone that across his entire career has just had so much attention paid to him on the 3-point line, but now teams perhaps can't do that as much because you've got equally as good a shooter in IC sitting there waiting for his opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Chris has evolved. His game. He's getting older. Not too old yet, but he's getting older. And when you do that, your game evolves. The ball's not in his hands as much as far as playmaking. But if you are a shooter and you're waiting out there at the 3-point line or in your spots, it helps so much to have the ball movement and the players that we do. That guys can't just stay on him. You can't put 2 guys or 1 guy on Chris and never leave him. And that's how you get shots, good ball movement, and other guys that can play basketball. And I'm sure just, he's just having a ton of fun, just to be able to stand there and know that eventually the ball's going to get to you.
Yeah, and I thought a guy who was absolutely elite at finding our shooters, whether it be Ian, Chris, anyone out there, Shea Ely stepped up big without Matthew Delvedova in the lineup this week, but Shea Ely really stepped up and I can't count how many possessions he would get a lane, cut down the middle, draw in the defense, and then he's just whack out to a shooter in the corner or out to a shooter on the wing, and it's just cash.
Yeah, can't say enough about Shea. I know he doesn't really want anybody talking about him, or that's the way he kind of carries himself. He just does so many of those things that aren't as fun or aren't as sexy, I guess you could say. But I mean, he's always there. The effort's always there. He's always defensively. He's always there. He's always making the extra pass. And he's always
the extra pass. You say?
Yeah, the extra pass. Pun intended. But he's all, like he's just such a solid guy to have around, top to bottom.
Yeah, and he found Ariel skying high for a few alley-oops. Going back to the Illawarra game, Ariel has a career high, 21 points, 10 boards, some blocks, some steals. The growth of Ariel this year has just been so cool to see. I guess for us, for me, I'm not going to speak for you, Balls, but for me, seeing the amount of work he put in and seeing how in the preseason you could just slowly see him ramp up, and then to get to the point where he's just so confident and he's just trying to put it on everybody. It's been awesome to see so far.
Yeah, and I don't think he's trying to do things that he's not ready to do yet either. Like he stays in his lane as far as he's catching oops around the rim. He's got a really good one or two dribble floater that I've seen him pull out a couple times, but he's not like, oh, I need the ball in the post. I need 3 back down dribbles and I need to make this move, or I need a couple shots, from 3, because that's what NBA scouts want to see. He's playing his game, and he fits in so well, and he'll fit in with any team, because any team likes to drive and throw alley-oops, or any team likes to have that back line that he provides of, if I get up on my guy and I get beat, I'm not too worried, because he's always there, hands up, 7-1, jumping straight up in the air, and it just provides that cushion on defense, which is hard to find.
Yeah, and on offense, you talk about that physicality. We saw it against the Hawks. Lockie Olbrich fouls out in 6.5 minutes, and then you see it in New Zealand where Matiang fouls out in, it couldn't have been more than 10 minutes. What's it like just to, we talked about demoralizing threes, but then to have your big guys who you're wanting to lock down, wanting to hold down the paint, and then you just have a force like Ariel who's just barging inside and drawing fouls.
Yeah, I think that's part of the result of not being able to double team a guy like Ari, because who are you going to double team him with? A big guy like that, you would, if they have the ball in their hands, you usually send a double so you wouldn't get the guy guarding them in foul trouble and leave him on an island. But I just, I don't know who you send. Like, who do you send from our shooters to help down low when the ball's getting kicked out anyways? I just think, if we have one-on-one matchups throughout the game, we're going to come out on top usually.
Yeah, and especially you talk about not doubling in the post. A guy who didn't see a lot of doubles in the post, Joe Lualichul Jr., he's back, plays both games off the bench. Instant impact. It didn't seem like there was any rust. He was just aggressive, taking it to people at the hoop, blocking shots on the other end. And especially when he's got it in the post, I feel like his ability, when the double comes or when the help comes, to find people, but when that help isn't coming, he's just ultra confident that it's a bucket.
Yeah, I think old school basketball fans will love seeing Joe come back, because he does post up. Like, he does wait on that left block. I guess, if you're facing the hoop, we're talking about the left block.
And the guys look for him. Everyone's it's like a go-to.
Yeah.
It's not like, we need to run a bunch of sets. Like, nah, dish it to Joe, and Joe's going to make something
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. And that used to be much more of a focus in basketball, top to, NBL, NBA, whatever. It was get the ball in the post to the big man, let him make a couple dribbles, couple moves, and see what he can do. And most of basketball's gone away from that. And unless you have a guy that can score so consistently down there and is so comfortable down there in the post, it's good to see. I mean, we're not just 3-point shooters. We're not just running guns. Sometimes we like some old school post moves too.
You played with a guy like that in college. Played with Zach Randolph. As a shooter yourself, were you just loving playing with Zebo? I know you guys sort of crossed over the power forward position a bit.
Yeah.
But someone you could dish it into, or you knew if he had it in the post, there's usually help coming and an open shot coming.
Yeah, no. Well, back then I wasn't. I mean, I was a shooter. They knew I could shoot, but you have very specific rules.
You're from Indiana, so
well, no, I could definitely
shoot.
Always could. But I was younger then, so he, and he had come in so highly touted. He only played 1 year, and it wasn't like I was like handling the ball on the perimeter and I could just decide when I wanted to pass it to him, when I didn't. We always had set plays, and if I was playing, I was usually the decoy to get the ball into Zebo. He's a he was a anomaly, I guess you could say. Like he couldn't jump. We're about the same height. He could not jump. I mean, he could jump. I could jump higher than he could, and I couldn't jump very high.
Well, you're an athlete. You can still dunk.
Yeah, but I'm quite tall, so I don't know. That's bragging. But he had hands that were just the ball. It wasn't like he just catch everything. The ball actually like came to him somehow. We say he had magnetic hands, quick feet, and just confidence that never wavered ever. He came in knowing how good he was. Coaches could get you down, and they could be, they're on top of you all the time, yelling, screaming. It never bothered Zebo. He lights up a room whenever he walks in, and I don't know. He just like it never thought came into his mind of I'm going to have a bad game this game, or I'm going to miss this shot. It didn't matter if he missed a shot. He got it on his own rebound anyways and put it back in. And for him to have the career he had is amazing. Like I tell you, he's big, but he wasn't an athlete at all. And he got so many rebounds and scored so close to the basket over guys 2, 3, 4, 5 inches taller than him.
When you talk about confidence, obviously this is something super important for an athlete to have. But I guess when you look at our team and you have Joe, you have Chris, you have Ian, you have even guys like coming off the bench in Tanner, who are just ultra confident in their ability to put the ball in the hole. How much does that help everyone around, just knowing that, when the shot goes up, I'm confident it's going in, and even if it's not, I'm confident they're still going to get a good shot next time out?
Yeah, I think right now they're in basketball heaven a little bit right now. Now there's ups and downs during the season. There's going to be games we're not playing very well, or we play well and still lose, and you'll deal with that then. But I don't think you'd be going much better right now. I'm not a coach. I'm not in on the X's and O's parts. I'm sure there's parts we can improve, but just I think top to bottom, you've got guys who can play and who want to be out there for each other too. Like it looks like a happy squad, a happy locker room. And when you're winning and around guys that love playing basketball and love to get along and just hang out, it's there's no job in the world better than that.
Yeah, and you talk about that, and there's still Matthew Dellavedova to add back into the fold. We haven't seen this team fully healthy for a single second yet. How exciting must that be once Delly is able to get over that concussion stint and get back on the floor?
Yeah, it is. It's just another weapon. It's another guy who provides slightly different things too, with Delly and his hustle and what he can do defensively and push the ball and get it to the right guys, and the scoring weapon he provides. I don't know. I think the only problem is there's only one ball. Maybe we can write a letter to the league, or
at least give us two.
Somebody, 2 balls. I mean, 2 balls would be probably fun to watch. I don't know how that would work, but the crowd would probably love that. At least for a quarter, maybe second quarter 2-ball rule.
Maybe put it like a power play.
Yeah, like you can throw a flag or something, and that starts your 2-minute power play with 2 balls.
Maybe if you win your coach's challenge, you get a minute of 2 balls.
I like it. I mean, it's probably got a while till they put it in, but it's going to come eventually. Kids are going to get bored with. They're going to say it's a boring game. Kids don't have the bandwidth to pay attention to these type of things. Well, let's add 2 balls.
Well, we've broken down an amazing round 4 for Melbourne United, but I want to look back even further after the break when we have Melbourne Tigers legend Al Westover come in. He's going to talk through the Tigers' inaugural championship in 1993, which we will be celebrating on Sunday afternoon at John Cain Arena. So after the break with Al Westover.
Melbourne United memberships are on sale now. Lock in your seat for the most exciting show in Australian sport and guarantee you're there for every highlight across next season. To find out more, go to membership.melbourneutd.com.au.
And we're back on the Extra Pass podcast presented by Melbourne United, and we're joined by a very special guest, 1993 Melbourne Tigers championship winning assistant coach Al Westover. Thanks for being here, Al.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You do many podcasts?
No.
This is official. I mean, we got headphones. Nice. They're not all like this. Sometimes you're just doing them on the computer, but this is luxury.
Yeah, well, I'm impressed.
No, well, we're very thankful to have you here because obviously we want to talk everything about that 93 Tigers season because the 30-year anniversary coming up this weekend. We're going to celebrate it at the United versus Illawarra Hawks game. I guess first things first, can you take me through your memories from that season?
Yeah, well, we had lost in 92 to the Magic, so, that was a big loss. And then we had Brackey coming in the lineup, so we're all very excited for that season, and At that time, I mean, it is now too, but it was huge, especially the Melbourne rivalries with us and the Giants and the Magic, and really a golden time for Victorian basketball because Magic won in 92, we won in 93, then the Giants won in 94. So, great rivalries there. But we're excited with the Hoagie coming into it, but we didn't gel early in the year. I can't remember our exact record, but we're under 500. We were like 2-5 or something, and down to Geelong by like 15 going into the fourth quarter. It wasn't looking good, and we turned that around and got a win. And then we kind of clicked into gear as everyone got more familiar with each other. And I'm pretty sure the Tigers had never won in Perth before. And I remember an early season game there, and they hammered us by 30, 35 points. And I remember we all flying back, and you're all kind of down and dejected. And then later when we won the grand final there, that flight back took like 5 minutes. It was like, wow, we're here. But it was great to turn things around. But very talented group. Very talented group with Gaze, Copeland, Brackey, Dave Simmons was there, Giddy, Whitehead, so Ray Gordon. Yeah, a very talented group, a veteran group, and, they rose to the challenge. And I think people are written us off because we won the first one in Melbourne, then we went there and lost game 2, and everybody was saying it was over, and they were getting ready to celebrate. You saw the balloons and all that, and I don't know. It just had a real good feel, though. When you think back to the game, it wasn't like we were nervous or anything. Everyone felt real confident and good about our chances, and went out and played a good game and got the championship.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that something that sort of goes into it, just for context? So you win game 1, go back to Perth. This is a best of 3 series. So you go back to Perth, lose game 2, and then, like you said, Melbourne, the Tigers had never won in Perth before. So is that a conversation that happens, or is it just complete and utter focus on, it doesn't matter where we are, we just got to get this win?
Yeah, I don't think it was really talked about. You're in the final and you're thinking, oh, we got to win one more and we're home. And if anything, maybe a bit tight or nervous with game 2. I think when you get to that third game, it's just like, you just go for it now, And, that's when teams play at their best, when they're just reacting and playing. And, it was probably one of our best defensive games of the year. We did a great job. And I don't know how much you guys have talked about, but Leonard had a real big game. And
Huge.
Yeah. And I remember Lindsay saying during a timeout, because they had Ricky Grace on him, and Lindsay's like, hey, you can take him. Not that Leonard really needed any pushing.
Extra push. So it's a 3-game series. Is that how it was run? Then it was a home and then 2 in Perth?
Yep. It was away, then home for 2.
Away, then home.
Yeah. So that might have helped us getting that first game at Melbourne and winning that. But then once it went to the third game, the advantage was, I guess.
Back with Perth.
Yeah.
And that 93 is the height of – what was the height of 90s? Because it was huge. NBL was huge in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
so it was 93 kind of that time, that 92, 93, 94, or was it a little bit later in the 90s where it was –
No, I think the early 90s, it was huge. Because I can remember I think it was that year or maybe the next year. Yeah, because that year we had beat Sydney in the semis, and it was huge. I mean, we're leaving. It's like a half hour after the game, and that car park behind the old Entertainment Sydney Center is full of cars and people, and they're all singing, Sydney, oi, Sydney, oi.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is crazy. And they lost, But it was huge there, and that was a big boost for us, and they had a really good team. And then in Perth, of course, the sellout crowds, and we had that. But that kind of carried over to the 94 season, because I remember our first game was at home against Sydney. It was the first time we sold out to a visiting team, like in the regular season. So that was huge. So that carried over to the next year too.
Can you take me through some of the memories? Because obviously it was sort of a back and forth game, that game 3 in Perth. Tigers get up big, and then Perth makes their run. They've got the crowd behind them, and obviously a lot of it sort of stems on that Vlahov 3 with not long left that goes in and out. But can you talk me through what that fourth quarter was like as they were making their run? And obviously the pressure doesn't get any greater than that.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I thought we had them on several occasions, and we never could put them away. You know, credit to them. They had some great players and a great team, and you're right with the crowd and all that. And, yeah, I can remember Vlahov's shot. It seemed to take like a minute. You're like watching it, and it looked like it was going in all the way, and then it spun out. So, yeah, we were a bit lucky and fortunate there. But, yeah, I think, we won it, so you always think, oh, that was a great series. But I do think it was a great series as both teams were up and down, and we were tough to defend, and we had a hard time defending them. And, it just comes down to making a couple big plays at the right time of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess when you look at that and the final siren goes and it's the first championship for the Tigers and there's the famous scenes of Andrew and Lindsay embracing. But what did that mean to this club, especially coming off the year prior where you had got so close and gone down to the Magic? What did that moment mean?
Yeah, it was great. And you don't want to get there and lose again. So that'd be a terrible feeling. But I guess that kind of spurred us on at the beginning. And, obviously Mark coming in. And Lindsay always said, the longer the season goes, the better for us, because he knew it'd take a while for everyone to kind of, know the rules and play together. And that was pretty good prediction on his behalf, And we were fortunate. We had a full roster. We didn't have injuries or anything. But, yeah, it was very special. I don't know how much we were thinking back to the 92 loss. I mean, obviously that hurt, and it hurt because it was, the Magic. You rather lose to a Perth than the Magic because we see those guys around, But, yeah, I guess, we were determined to make the next step. And the expectation, I guess, was for that since we added Mark to our squad. But it's never that easy.
Where was he playing before that? When did he play in the NBA?
He was Adelaide.
Oh, yeah. I remember playing in Adelaide. You see the pictures on the wall of him, team pictures. And his head is huge. I mean, he's a big man. He already knows he has a huge head, but
everything about him is huge.
He had an incredible mullet. Did he have the mullet when he came? I mean,
no, he did that in Adelaide.
In Adelaide, it was like Def Leppard, like 80s rock star. Like it was you couldn't look anywhere else.
I mean, he was a great athlete when he came up. He went right into the NBL at 18 years old or something. I'm not sure how old he was when we got him, and we were very fortunate, and that created a big thing with Adelaide.
Yeah, but Adelaide wasn't happy.
But he went to the Olympics and met Nicole there, and then they were going to get engaged. So he came to Melbourne because of Nicole. Yeah, Nicole Provis at the time, and then they ended up getting married. So it was us, the Magic, or the Giants that he was going to go to, and I think we might have the inside track with Drew, knowing him from the Boomers and stuff like that. But, yeah, we're very thankful that Nicole was living here.
And he was just a rebound machine. Right?
Oh, he was great.
I think in that game 3, I think he had 19 or 18 rebounds.
That's what I thought, around 20. Great on the boards, could run the floor, good defender, tough, physical.
Yeah, you couldn't move him. I mean, I played against him a bit. And you couldn't, if he wanted to be in a spot, you couldn't. Didn't matter how low you were to try. He was not moving from where he wanted to be.
Yeah, no, it gave us a whole different presence. So we were always kind of like a finesse team, I guess you think. That was a perception. Offense, kind of soft or whatever. But Dave Simmons was tough, and Brackey, Giddy, Ray Gordon. We had a real physical element about our team, and I think that kind of put us over the edge because. Probably prior to that, we might struggle against some of the bigger, more physical teams. And, with having Mark there and Simo as our two bigs, that we could match it with anyone physically.
Yeah, you talk about, all the names you're listing off, you're listing some of the biggest names who have played in the NBL and who have played for the Tigers. Can you talk to me a bit about, because it makes me sort of think back to this United team and all the depth that they've got, how important just having that, you can have all the stars in the world, but just having sort of an even depth that you can rely on each other, how important that is on a potentially championship winning team.
Oh, you have to have it. One, you have to have it just for training. If you have one group that's really good, then it falls off. They need to be challenged at training. So you need competitive guys there. They're pushing each other. And then, of course, during the season, and especially now going back to a 40-minute game, you might not need as great as depth as maybe in our day with a 48-minute game. But those guys always have to be ready. Somebody goes down, like Delhi the other day, and someone fouls out or someone does an ankle. Those guys have to be ready. And sometimes that's a lot more difficult than being a starter and getting into a regular routine. So guys got to be ready to step up, and they have to have the confidence to go out there and make plays and contribute. But that all starts on the training track. So as a coach or, the teammates, the ones coming in, what you're going to get. And maybe the team's not quite the same, but you do maybe some things better and some things maybe not as well. But it gives you a different look.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to circle back to, you sort of talked about when you won that championship in that sort of era, that was the height of the NBL. That was just, Australia was really basketball crazy. And can you see any similarities between that era and where we're getting to now, where the first 4 home games United have had nearly 10,000 in the building every night, and it seems like every arena is selling out? How exciting is that, just to see that the NBL just seems to be back on the rise and getting back to that point?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've always thought the NBL is a very good league, and you think it gets better each year, and it probably does. There, when we had our kind of maybe down times, it was teams had money problems, and we it wasn't getting the same. It wasn't marketed as well as it is now. So I think the marketing's really helped the NBL. The talent obviously is there and it's getting better each year. And since I've been here, almost every year, like there's the Olympics, or this year we had the World Championships, that seems to stimulate people with the game. And I've just heard of local clubs, with the juniors that having crazy numbers of kids trying out. It's, it's just ridiculous. And I think right now basketball is just as big as ever in this country, if not bigger,
Yeah, and as we head into Sunday, obviously it's going to be a celebration of that 30-year anniversary. Can you talk to me a bit about what, as the years go by, as it gets to, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, how important these moments are to you as someone who's been involved with basketball for so long?
I mean, it's always good to reflect back on the times, and like with the group getting together to see people you haven't seen for a real long time. And, it brings back memories right away, just even now, because, time goes on and you can't dwell too much in the past. But I think it's nice that, the club, United, is recognizing the group, and that was our, their first championship and at the NBL level. And for someone like myself, I played with the Tigers pre-NBL, and initially Lindsay wasn't keen on it. So we didn't go in, and then we're like, hey, Linz, looks like a pretty good idea. And then since we declined the invitation, we had to win our way through. So the winner of the old Siebel would go in. So we made the final one year and lost to Geelong with Cal Bruton, and they went in. Then we made the final the next year and lost to Frankston, and they went in. And then the following year, they said, well, this will be the last year that the winner goes through. We won that year. We beat Wayne, and finally we got in. So, I was part of those days where we're trying to get in, and then we get in. So it's go from that to seeing us win the championship in Perth was amazing. Just the way the game took off back then, because we used to play in front of like nobody at Albert Park and all. And then all of a sudden you have Rod Laver and there's 15,000 there. I'm like,
yeah. 15,000. I mean, that is.
I'm like, how did this happen? I guess these guys are better than we were.
Yeah, finally got you out of there, and some people come.
Yeah, some of them can play. Yeah.
Well, Al, it's been so great to hear a bit about that team and about that season, and just get that context on the rise of the NBL and how excited you are for it now. So we really appreciate you coming in and telling those stories.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. Well, if you haven't already got your ticket for Sunday, make sure you get in. It's our last Super Sunday in October game, 2:00 Sunday against the Hawks. We'll see a celebration for that 30-year anniversary. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, fellas.